I was at a party recently, and someone who I didn't know asked me, if I need to know one thing about you, what would it be? And I didn't know what to answer. So I paused to reflect, and then it came out naturally. I'm a creative person. I've always found myself to be a creative person. That's a great justification if you have a mess in the room or disastrous kitchen experiments. All my friends define me as one, sometimes with their eyes rolling, but I never acted on it, never nurtured any ambition, or even considered a career in the creative field. Why not? Well, honestly, I thought that you can't make any money with it. I mean, an artist is someone who is 50 and still doesn't have health insurance. Or on the other extreme, someone who looks like Jake Gyllenhaal and talks like he devoured Merriam-Webster dictionary. The art world seemed so complex, snobbish. I didn't have a degree in art, and I didn't know where to start. I never followed the path that I was so fascinated by. But don't get me wrong, I did pretty well for myself. I graduated from the best university in Russia, my home country. I studied in Sorbonne and did my master's in Paris. I was one of the 47 interns to be hired in 8 years for my first job. I was the director of admissions in the top 10 European business school. I speak 6 languages and have lived in 5 countries. Okay, I'll stop bragging now. As Golda Meir once said, darling, don't be humble, you're not that great. And I actually had a couple of downfalls. I remember feeling desperate in a new country. I remember I didn't have electricity in my apartment because I was 3 months late on rent, living on 20 euros per week. There were downfalls, but in general, well, I did pretty okay. Just not creative. And the dream never went away. I would spend weekends in museums, my inbox was full of arty newsletters, my Kindle full of books on art. And 4 years ago, I moved to a new country, and I couldn't find a job for 10 months. And to my surprise, that liberated me, because I started applying for jobs in the arts, finally getting closer to what I wanted. It took a while, but all I needed is one person giving me a chance, a human entry point. And among dozens of applications that I sent, one was to a cultural foundation in Venice. The interviews were the toughest in my life. 25 people from all over the world were invited to spend 3 days in Venice. I remember the first evening we were invited to have a dinner in my future boss' extravagant, enormous Venetian apartment filled with art. And at 1 o'clock at night, he was drilling us. And what's that painting on the wall? Do you know who is it by? What movement? Who else do you know from that movement? I've never studied art or art history. I didn't have good answers. But that's when I learned the first thing that I wish someone would have told me a long time ago. There are plenty of art careers where you do not need a degree in art. 3 days later, I got the job. It was to organize an art exhibition in a Venetian palazzo. And that's when I found out that the skills that I acquired in the previous careers, they actually have more value than a degree in art. All these interviews that I did with corporate people, they helped to convince the sponsors because I spoke their language. Living in different countries helped me to understand art projects and issues on a global level. Even my business style was an asset. All I had to do was just to change everything to black and dress like I was going to a very fancy funeral. The exhibition was a success. I had 14 artists and designers exhibiting their projects in a wonderful palazzo on Gran Canal. The Wallpaper website put it in their top 10 exhibitions to visit during the Venice Biennial. I moved from project to project, and gradually I learned more about the art world. And that's the second thing that I wish someone would have told me a very long time ago. If you think that jobs are scarce in the art world, you are wrong. You just might not know where to look for them. Here's a typical example. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited to speak to the master degree museology students. It was sometime, very short time before their graduation, and they were all looking for jobs. And I offered them one, a paid internship, 6 months in Venice, with accommodations. And they all said no. They said it doesn't bring value, and they wanted to be curators in museums. I was so surprised. That's an actual photo of me talking to them at this moment. They were setting themselves for a very competitive entry point and the most conventional way to enter an art world. But there is so much more that you can do. A collection manager for Valentino Garavani, fashion designer, got his job via a newspaper announcement, and he doesn't have a degree in art. One of the best collectors that I know hired his curator via the same agency he used for babysitters and butlers, because for him it's a part of the home stuff. Your creative platform can be much closer and much more accessible than you think. You just have to be in the know and choose less conventional paths. Finally, the last thing that I wish someone would have told me about the art world is about the doubt. I remember speaking to a wonderful student, smart, brilliant, intellectual lawyer from Australia. She came to study art with us for 2 weeks. And at the end of the course, she told me, "You know, Maria, my friends don't know that I'm in Venice. I told them that I'm doing an executive course in a business school." She was so drawn to the art world, but she was afraid that she wouldn't be understood or appreciated. And I'm glad that she came. I hope that the course have changed her life for the better. Probably we all have moments like this. I certainly do. When we doubt if art is for us, if we belong, if we want to be in the arts as a career, as a hobby, or even as an interest. And in these moments, I remind myself about the Cacophony Society. It's an art movement that was inspired by Dada and that welcomed many artists and creatives. When they needed to attract more people, they would distribute the flyers with the following text, and I shortened it a little bit. The Cacophony Society is a randomly gathered network of individuals united in the pursuit of experiences through art and meaningless madness. You may already be a member. If you want to be a part of the art world, feel, live, and act like a member. And that's the final and the most important thing that I wish someone would have told me.